Welcome back to another episode of Red Tinted Glasses. And as club football returns this weekend, hopefully it is a return of good fortunes for Aberdeen. But today's guest on the show, Martin from the Killie Shrew podcast, will be hoping that it is also a change of fortunes for Kilmarnock. Martin, first of all, welcome along to Red Tinted Glasses.
Thank you for having me on. It's great to be on and chat football, club football.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because I'm sure you don't want to speak about international football given recent results for your national team anyway.
No. Funnily enough, I spoke on my podcast last night and I do have a soft spot for Scotland. It's hard not to, having a wife and a daughter and that. So I'm not one of these England fans. I'm quite pleased that Scotland are doing all right, to be fair.
Yeah, well, we're recording this on Monday night, so let's hope that Tuesday goes to plan when this is released, or we have to edit that part out. But as I said, it's the return of club football, and it's also, Calum, the return of Derek Mcinnes to Pittodrie, along with Tony Doherty, Paul Sheeran, Ash Taylor, amongst others. What sort of reception do you think Mcinnes is in for this weekend? A warm reception, given he's, been our most successful manager in probably our living time of supporting Aberdeen?
First of all, I can't believe you left out Gary Woods off that list there.
Yeah, well, I noticed he didn't make the bench against Livingston, so that's why.
Well, I'm really not sure. I'm personally not looking forward to seeing Derek Mcinnes back at Pittodrie. Obviously, things that didn't end so great, and but ultimately did win the only trophy in my lifetime. Yours as well, I think, Glen. Possibly, or if not, then you are definitely not old enough to remember it.
Yeah, I think there was the League Cup one, but then, I wasn't old enough to remember it and definitely not know about Aberdeen at all at that time.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think it'll be a very mixed bag. There's, I personally not particularly big Mcinnes fan, certainly towards the end, past couple of seasons. So I'm sure there's also many others in the same boat as me, but at the same time, there will people maybe a bit less fickle than I, who will maybe choose to remember a little bit more fondly. So I think it'll be a little bit of a mixed one. I'm sure you'll get a little bit of stick, and it probably depends on how the game's going. Because if we're in control and things are going okay, it won't be a problem. But if Killie are performing well and he's getting all riled up on the touchline, then things might turn a little bit sour. But it'll be an interesting one, and it adds a little bit of spice to the occasion because Aberdeen and Kilmarnock games usually do need something a little bit added in.
Yeah, exactly. And Martin, we only saw Derek Mcinnes win one trophy in his time at Aberdeen. A lot of us probably feel he should have won a lot more. It didn't take him long to win one trophy at Kilmarnock, though. How did you feel last season went? Was it as smooth as you expected, or did you feel it was Kilmarnock against the rest of Scottish football, given the love affair that everybody was having with Arbroath?
Yeah, there was a mixture of both there about what you said, really. And to be honest, if it was any other season, I'd have probably been in the boat of wanting Arbroath to do well, but obviously, Kilmarnock were stopping them. For me, Mcinnes was a breath of fresh air. It doesn't matter who was going to come in, but I mean, me for one was surprised that we got Mcinnes in the first place because, let's be honest, he could possibly be managing a better side, at the time, but he got us back up. I always look at Mcinnes to what he did at Aberdeen. Now, when he went to Aberdeen, they were, if I rightly say, were in the bottom six, sort of at the time, weren't really doing anything. And obviously, it helped that Rangers formed a new club, which meant that Aberdeen were the second team in Scotland. So and then they were finishing top three. Getting into Europe, and all of a sudden Aberdeen were the sort of big boys outside the top two, so to speak. So yeah, I mean, you look at what he'd done there, and he was always achieving good runs in the cup. He'd get into quarterfinals, semi-finals. I just remember Mcinnes being a pain in the arse because, I mean, I've probably, out of the teams I've watched Kilmarnock, Aberdeen's the most. So you can imagine which way that result's also gone as well. But yeah, no, going back to what you sort of say, he was a breath of fresh air. I don't know about you, but I love listening to Mcinnes. I just think his interviews are fantastic. He's in some, it's a breath of fresh air to Tommy Wright. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I suppose in that sense I can understand it, but I did have to laugh at some of his interviews this season where he thinks that Kilmarnock maybe been the better side, but not got the results that they deserve from their play. I mean, obviously we're only seeing sports scene highlights of Kilmarnock. You're seeing a lot more of the action, but it just felt to be quite carbon copy of what we would hear from Mcinnes. And obviously as fans, we were maybe disagreeing, but as I said, we only, in terms of Kilmarnock this season, we don't see as much as you will have done. Do you kind of agree with those comments from Mcinnes? Because obviously your league form and position maybe suggests otherwise.
I think he's trying to protect the players because it's a new squad, so I don't think his comments are quite true. I do agree that he needs to be a bit more honest, but then there's a lot of young boys in the squad. He's maybe trying to protect them because they are on a bit of a bad run, and the last thing you need is maybe that's just his way of dealing with it, and hopefully come the end of the season we'll see results swing the other way. We'll talk about that later, but going back to last season, I mean, he had a massive job on his hands because obviously the squad wasn't his. And I think just Ash Taylor coming in and Kyle Lafferty, who's obviously not had a great time recently, but he bringing those two players in, that wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for Mcinnes. So, Mcinnes has got the sort of people, that he can bring in. He's got good, obviously, networks down south that he can respond to, and he got the best out of players that weren't playing well as well, like Blair Alston as well. They weren't having great games under Tommy Wright, and all of a sudden, they just managed to do it. I mean, let's put it this way: it wasn't pretty, it was horrible to watch, but when you're in the Championship, the main aim is just to get promoted and start again and start with a new squad. And he did say, to be fair, it's going to take 2 or 3 transfer windows. So he's in it for the long haul. So, yeah, it's not quite gone to plan so far. But, we had Rangers and Celtic in the first couple of games. So I'm not saying you want to wipe those out of the way because, you should be able. I mean, St Mirren proved that, you can beat the best.
Okay.
But it was a tough start with a new squad of 13 players. And we've probably just had a bit of bad luck, as well, because we've had players coming in at different times. Then we've had players not on the right form as last season, just niggly injuries as well, we've not really been able to put the right squad out. So I've heard some Aberdeen fans saying Mcinnes up to his old tricks with the tombola and changing his team every week. But in defence of Mcinnes, he's not had the full strength to choose from until maybe the last game or so. So we'll make judgment on that maybe.
Yeah, do like that comment about and not pretty to watch, but gets the job done. I think that could be Derek McInnes' personal tagline. Certainly, I think Calum, you'd agree on that in the last couple of seasons of Derek McInnes' time at Aberdeen.
I'm not sure about getting the job done quite towards the end. However, I suppose over the spell that's probably fair. But just since you mentioned him, before we do go back to Mcinnes and Kilmarnock as a whole, Kyle Lafferty, interesting character, never ever been held in high regard by Aberdeen fans for some fairly obvious reasons. But how did you feel, first of all, about his return to Kilmarnock? And then also, do you then now expect him to be involved this weekend, given recent events? We'll just gloss over a little bit.
Yeah, I've had this. I mean, I had a chat of this on my podcast last night, and I'm the one of where he needs to be punished. The Kilmarnock will do what's right for the best of everyone. Whether people see that as the right decision, we'll see. But he should at least be made to come out with a public apology and a fine, and he might get a ban, possibly. And I think you can't really argue that, because as much as he wasn't representing the club and the nation and the national team in sort of colours, it was he as a professional, you kind of do that. Let's put it that way. We're trying to cut this sectarian sort of abuse and language at the game with fans. I would say that a lot of Celtic fans pot kettle black, because they're probably what they say to Rangers and that. So when you see all the comments about Kyle, it's just an easy target. Kyle is an easy target, but he doesn't help himself. He needs to stay on the floor a bit more. off the floor, should I say a bit more. Obviously, you mentioned the famous incident against Aberdeen when he got apparently headbutted by Charlie. And then he's done a similar incident against Ayr last season. So his antics don't help. But in the whole, when he's come to Kilmarnock, he's been great. He's been a breath of fresh air. He's put his performances in the big games. He's turned up. And yeah, there was a bit of a sticky wicket about him coming back. But then for me, it wasn't just about Kyle. There was more senior players like Alan Power. I think Tommy Wright just was a bit of a dick, to be fair. Excuse my language, but just Tommy Wright has his ways, and he pissed off a few people. So for me, that was my perception of Kyle Lafferty coming back. I had no qualms. I knew he would perform under Mcinnes. And he certainly did. There was no question about it. This season's a different story. There's been talks about should we have offered him that 1-year contract? Has he gone a season too far? Is maybe Championship his level now? He's had a few niggly knocks, which has kept him out. And then obviously this has happened. Let's see if he was in good form this season and been scoring. And that happened. Like, fair enough. But the fact that there's talks of him getting a ban or maybe getting his contract ripped up. I'm not like, see if it was last season I'd be gutted, but this season I'm not really that fussed because it's not going to be a big loss to the side because we've not really performed well with him anyway. But at the same time, he's probably the best finisher at the club on his day as well. You would want him to be in the right place at the right time. I just think he hasn't got his head in the game at the minute. So I don't really know where Kyle Lafferty's head is at the minute. But yeah, I don't condone what he did, but it was a setup as well. And he's an easy target, isn't he, Kyle?
Yeah, I think that was one thing that, when you said it's a setup, I think, Pye and Bovril kind of summed up the incident well. You can't take away from what he said when, as you rightly said, Martin, it's something we're trying to get rid of in the Scottish game. But there's been a lot of incidents this season of fans kind of setting up opposition players. I think there was one of a Rangers fan doing something to Scott Brown at his time in Fleetwood. It's just proper, I think to quote Pye and Bovril was Dick Patter, Dick move Patter, because it's just making easy targets for some people. But Kyle, you're right, he doesn't help himself. But, I think Calum, like the way I see it as well, that Martin says he's not exactly in good form, but he also says he's a big game player. This is a big game for Kilmarnock. I mean, big game. Derek Mcinnes looking to go back to Aberdeen and prove a point, because I think it's fair to say things didn't necessarily end on good terms between him and certain people at the club. Is all I'll say on that. I won't name names, but Kyle Lafferty is a big game player. He'd probably thrive off that atmosphere, and Kilmarnock haven't exactly been prolific in front of goal this season. I think, Martin, am I right in saying that Ash Taylor's top goal scorer so far this season?
Yeah, he's got 2 of the 3 goals, so there you go.
Yeah, but with our problems defensively, Calum, it probably is a bit of a relief, form or no form, that Kilmarnock will be missing Kyle Lafferty. Yeah,
I mean, I think so. Regardless of what circumstances, I probably would like to go into any game without him playing, because especially at Pittodrie, it was like when we played against Chris Boyd, you just knew he was going to have a say one way or another. So it's kind of one of those. So personally, I hope he's just not playing, regardless of the reasoning, just because I know he can cause us a bit of problems, and our defence is absolutely shambolic still. But I think we'll take it back to more, serious matters. I don't know if that's right phrasing after the recent events, but I was wondering, given the way Aberdeen fans maybe objected to Derek McInnes' style of football towards the back end of his time at Aberdeen anyway, Martin, I was just wondering, how are you feeling about what you've seen so far? Obviously, the team hasn't been quite where he wants it to be yet, and I think he had problems with the head of recruitment as well, so he's probably not been able to recruit the correct players. But it was described as boring, basically, towards the back end of Aberdeen, and eye bleeding perhaps at times. I'm just wondering if you've seen any signs of that.
I and no. I mean, let's put it this way: the Celtic game, I was really pissed off with, because yeah, we lost 5-0 and there's quality all over the pitch, but we just didn't look like trying that day, and we played the wrong formation, and we tried to be too clever rather than stick to the game plan that we had the previous games and during pre-season. So it was a bit of a baffling decision. in Celtic made us look like mugs, but then it did please me when Dundee United lost 9-0, so it made me feel a bit better. And then obviously Rangers lost 4-0, so I was like, well, that's fair enough, we'll take that. But no, even that was a wrong move. Dundee United first game, I mean, we somehow got a last minute equaliser for Ash Taylor, but I don't know how we didn't win that game. Saying that, Dundee United did play their part. I would say a draw was a fair result in the end, but the Motherwell game, I mean, we could have beaten Motherwell about 4 or 5-1. So there has been some good aspects, and obviously the 4 points we've come from coming behind. Which means that we have got the resilience. And if you look at the games, apart from Celtic, they've all been close games. We've not been playing brilliant. We've been playing pretty boring at times, maybe to some. Some we haven't maybe attacked enough, but then it's about having the right players available at the right times. We haven't had Jordan Jones available until literally last week, who was meant to be the sort of player we need. And we haven't got enough pace. And obviously we brought Doige in, who's meant to be a good threat as well. We'll come to see, how good he'll be for us. But it's just about getting the right team in the next 3 or 4 games now. And it's hard to make a judgment really, because there has been good parts. I mean, Hearts away in the cup, they didn't have the full strength side, but neither did we. So there were some good performances there. And for 2 of the players that were on loan and got relegated with 2 sides in the Championship last year, so Liam Polworth and Ince Cameron, they've both come in and they've done all right. They've been given the chance, and Liam Polworth is like a new signing. So Mcinnes has obviously got a bit of motivation there, I would say. I just think he's just been a bit unlucky, really, to be fair, with the injuries, but we haven't got hammered. We've just been losing games 1-0. Even Rangers away, we were pretty poor and terrible, didn't create anything, but we hung on until the last minute and then obviously conceded the second. So I think it's just about getting those attacking players back in and being more of a threat upfield. And I think the main thing that's missing in the squad really is just confidence, because we've scored 3 goals, and if you're not attacking, you're not scoring, and then you're putting more pressure on your defence and your goalkeeper, and that you just need that bit of confidence, an early goal, a bit of luck, something like that, just to spark the season really. And I think when that happens, we'll see Kilmarnock play a lot better.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear you speak about the injuries and the luck in some of those games, because even the game against Ross County, which I know had the controversy around the red cards, obviously still a sore point for you, but it's beggars belief how you didn't score in that game, let alone have some assistance from the incompetence. But if Kilmarnock do gain some confidence and get some positive results, Martin, this season, hopefully starting next week, not this weekend against Aberdeen, where do you see your hopes for Kilmarnock this season? Again, like Aberdeen, you've got a cup quarter final coming up the middle of this month as well. I know Derek McInnes and Billy Brown have got ambitions to have Kilmarnock in the top 6. Is this season more of a staying in the division season and then build from that, or is there hopes in amongst the Kilmarnock support that you can break into that top 6 this season?
Yeah, I know it sounds daft and that, but I was looking at previous teams like Dundee United and Hearts and where they've gone to, and I was looking at that bounce ability of the high of winning the league, and I was just hoping that we would get a decent result to start the season off, but it didn't quite pan out like that. But I always said that if we were to finish 6th, and sneak in that top 6 position, and get on a good cup run, get to a quarter final or a semi final like we pretty much have, I'd be happy with that, because that's progress under when we were last time, and a bit of consistency going forward into the new season, into next season. Sorry, I still think we can do it. I know it sounds daft. We've lost 5 out of 7 games and we're not scoring, but I mean, you've got to remember, Ross County hadn't won a game up until mid-October, I think it was. I think they got literally a couple of points or something, and then all of a sudden they ended up top 6. And I think, right, I'm saying they beat you away, didn't they, to get top 6?
Yes.
But you know what I mean? It goes to show that, apart from Rangers and Celtic last season and Hearts, which were obviously then another gap, But then between fourth and the I think it was the bottom. Maybe I think it was like the two at the bottom were having a bit of a battle themselves, like Rangers and Celtic were. But between 10th and 4th, it was like a little mini league, and anyone could have finished anywhere. And I mean, Ross County got in the top 6, and then when the points tallied up on the split, they would have ended up finishing in the bottom half. It's just. But the points were so close, and Motherwell, I think, they're a prime example. They sneaked it in the last seconds at Livingston and ended up getting Europe. So for me, I just think the aim is, if you still got an opportunity of getting that top 6 come the last couple of months of the season, that should be the aim, and it still should be the aim. There's no reason why we can't. We've had a bad start, but you kind of keep losing all season. Again, we can't be as bad as what we were last time. With the resources of players that we've got and the manager who's got the know-how, to really dig deep when it matters. And it may not be pretty, but sometimes it's about getting that result. At the end of the day, if I walk out of Rugby Park or an away game and we got 3 points, I'm not thinking about the performance. I'm just thinking about what a result that was, however lucky we are, So, the way I look at it is, probably look at it around the end of November time. Well, saying that's the World Cup, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think when we spoke about that, Martin, on last week's episode, in Calum, it's a fair point that Martin makes about how kind of close the league is just now. I think it's 6 points we've got on Kilmarnock just now, but dependent on the result this weekend, that could close. It could stay the same. But I think November probably is going to be a fair gauge for most teams to see where they are and kind of evaluate their options. And Kilmarnock fans will maybe retain hope of top 6 and more, but obviously we've got hopes of top 3, top 4 finishes this season. And I think really that this is the sort of games, the home games, Martin says it's all that matters is the 3 points, but I think from what we've seen of Aberdeen this season, I think we would want both the 3 points and a bit more of a convincing performance, especially if we aren't going to be assisted by a red card on Saturday.
I know, it'd make a change but in performance not being assisted by a red card, but I think we are sort of crying out for that. And in terms of, the way Kilmarnock have started the season being a newly promoted side, on paper it might look like sort of an ideal fixture to get those things in. Ash Taylor's probably been their best player this season. Now I've said that he'll probably have the game of his life back in, which would be just typical. But, I think this is the type of game we should be taking by the scruff of the neck, rather, taking control, going at them and going for the kill at home. And hopefully we can, ideally keep a clean sheet, which seems impossible for the most part for us, and get a good performance and get us happy, lift our spirits a little bit after the last few results.
Yeah, a clean sheet would certainly back up Jim Goodwin's claims this evening of Kyle Ross forcing himself into the Netherlands squad ahead of the World Cup. Where do you stand on that? Because I'll have whatever Jim was having this weekend if that's where he thinks.
I think Ryan Porteous has really got to him and he's completely lost the plot. Not quite sure where that claim came from. Totally bonkers. I don't even have that much to say on it because it's that ridiculous.
Yeah, I'll agree there. You said, it's maybe ideal this weekend, and, games aren't won on paper. Stats are like mini skirts, to quote Evie. But Kilmarnock maybe are the ideal opposition, and Martin, you might want to close your ears for this, because it's no wins in 11 for the Ayrshire side against Aberdeen in all competitions, and no wins in 9 league meetings between the two. So, I mean, most of them did come under Derek Mcinnes, admittedly, for us. But with Martin saying maybe the Kilmarnock side are lacking a bit of confidence, Calum, it is something that we can exploit. And we know what Bojan's been like at home as well this season. Although hopefully he finds the right net this time after his mishap against Georgia a couple of days ago. Yeah,
I mean, as I say, all those stats do point in the correct direction for us, and fingers crossed we can, extend that. But with all that being said, I am extremely nervous about the fact that most of those wins come under Derek Mcinnes, if not all of those, in that 11-game stretch, and he's the manager in the opposite dugout now. It's pretty terrifying. But as you say, you know, if Bojan can be firing at home because he seems to have gone missing away from home, and hopefully if he's partnered with Duke as well, which is what I'd like to see happen, I think, then we should be all right and have enough about us, certainly going forward, to get us over the line, if not defensively, because, it's scary back there.
Yeah, and I think we will see Duke retain his place in the starting 11, given his positive performance in that 44-minute cameo. I think it's safe to call it at Easter Road. But defensively, there's question marks over the selection. What do we do? You know, to go back to Paul Donaldson's comments in our live last week about how we effectively lost 3 players at the red card. Do you think Jim Goodwin will move Ross McCrory back into midfield, and does Dante go into there in midfield? Or do we trust Jack Milne, Jack McKenzie in there at left centre back?
I hope he trusts Jack Milne. However, I have a funny feeling he absolutely will not, and we will see the big American in the middle of the park, which it's a tough one because the games he's been chucked in this season have been horrendous situations, and he's probably had little to no preparation for a lot of them, and it's fair to say that's shown. Maybe a game against Kilmarnock at home. Again, sort of no disrespect to Kilmarnock, but at home when you're expected to be on the ball for the most of the time, a chance to maybe control it, see what he can do. You know, we've all seen the compilations from his college days in America of his passing range. Maybe if this is the kind of game where he is going to come in and start through Scales suspension, not going to be too against it. But I would like to see Jack Milne at centre back on the other side of that coin, because he's highly thought of. If he's not going to get a chance in a league game at home against Kilmarnock, when's he going to get the chance at Aberdeen this season? Is there any point of him being there at all?
Yeah, I can see that side of the argument, but against an experienced striker in Christian Deutsch, that would be a tough test for me for Jack Milne. Jack McKenzie's got that bit more Premiership experience, but you're right. If you're not going to throw them in, when does he get that experience? I can see both sides of that argument.
And I feel like Jack McKenzie is probably more likely to get ragdolled by Christian Deutsch than Jack Milne. And remember Scott McKenna's performance when he came in against Louis Moult, who, let's be honest, was on far better form than Christian Deutsch is currently, and look at the way how he dealt with it. Not saying they're going to have the same career, go on the same trajectory or whatever, but he was a highly thought of young centre-back at Aberdeen once upon a time, came in when we had little to no other option, and look how it went.
Yeah, true. And Milne would also have the height advantage over McKenzie in terms of dealing with Deutsch in that situation as well. But Martin, for Kilmarnock, you spoke about returns for Jordan Jones. So also noted that Zach Hemmings returned in goals. I'm sure a very welcome return for yourself in between the sticks. But Ash Taylor as well, I think, am I right in saying he's due to return from his suspension from that game, the red card that he picked up against Hibs this weekend as well? How important is it to have him back in the centre of defence for Kilmarnock?
No questions asked. Ash Taylor is a leader. The only problem with Ash Taylor is he hasn't got obviously the pace, so he does need that support behind. And the boy we've got from Rangers, Lewis Mayo, we got him and it was quite exciting because he got Player of the Year at Partick last year. He was in the Championship Team of the Year, and I thought, this is great, but my God, he's been probably at fault for 2 or 3 of the goals. So I pray that he isn't playing, because he was the reason why Ash Taylor got sent off as well, because he was meant to go for the man and then decided, oh no, I'll leave it. So Ash Taylor had no option but to go and try and get the ball. But I don't know why Ash Taylor just didn't let him shoot and score, because the worst that happens is that we concede or he saves it, but to do that after 10 minutes was crazy. But apart from that, yeah, I mean, having him back, because he's got the 2 goals a season, but I think since he's come in January, he's got 6 goals in 14 games or 15 games, something ridiculous like that.
He also gives you an option up front as well if the game's still in the balance.
Classic. Yeah, but the thing is, you've got to play to your strengths at the end of the day. You're not going to be blessed with the same budget as certain teams in the league. And for me, we do play the long ball at times, but at the end of the day, if it's effective, and you've just got to play to your strengths, and some teams the opposition team aren't going to like that, but it is what it is. I don't like the fact Celtic have loads of money every week to spend on whoever and just sit on the bench, but that's the way it is. So, if it means we play that long ball and we put Ash Taylor up top near the end of games, to win the battle, then yeah. Because, it's not just I like the fact he's got Doidge in there, who's a tall player, he's good in the air. He's got Ash Taylor who can win the flick-ons. So there's a lot of height in there for set pieces. And yeah, even the likes of Lafferty as well. So you talk about, you're talking about your defenders and who should play at the back and that, but yeah, I suppose that's something to think about there.
Yeah, it's actually, I never really thought about that kind of threat that you'd possess from set pieces, although I know Doidge didn't quite have his radar firing in that chance he had late on against Livingston. Do you think there's a bit of pressure on Christian Doidge going into this game, just with the fact that you said, it's only a handful of goals scored this season, that he really needs to kind of pick up a bit of form?
No, not really. I just think he's just getting used to playing with the team. At the end of the day, strikers can score goals, and yeah, he had that one chance, but he had one chance. See if he'd been missing about 5 or 6 of them, then I'll be really pissed off. But I think in that game, in the first half, we had no shots on goal, none on target, obviously. Second half, we had 3 on goal, 1 on target. You know what I mean? So, what is your striker meant to do? Yeah, okay. Doidge isn't your typical striker who's going to run around chasing every ball. So you do need your creative players doing stuff, and yeah, having Jordan Jones maybe starting would be ideal, because for me, he is is going to be the difference in the coming weeks. Fraser Murray as well. Just don't know what's going on with him at the minute. Was one of our best players last season. Got 7 goals and 8 assists. So one of our most creative players last season. But he's just not quite got a run in the team this year. So yeah, it's just play. This is the problem at the minute. Players aren't on the right form. The confidence is not there. It's just a catalogue of things at the minute, and I just think it takes something like going to Aberdeen, where we've got probably one of the worst records against any other team. And I just think I know this is going to sound bad. See if we had a okay record against Aberdeen, and we were doing okay this season, I'd probably maybe put a draw or defeat. But the fact that we're going there, its odds are all against us. Everyone is going to predict Aberdeen to win. Even Kilmarnock fans will be thinking Aberdeen are going to win. But I'm trying to be positive and just look at always try and find a positive for something. I just think we will go there and get a bit of luck. Whether it's an own goal, a dodgy red card, a penalty, something like that, just to really sort of give us the boost. And the thing is, I think if we were to win, we have to score first, because Mcinnes will know from his experience of time at Pittodrie that what the crowd are like. So he'll know how to get his players to react to the crowd, maybe at certain points in the game, or I don't know, because he's been there for so long. And Aberdeen, from what I've seen in the past, can sometimes get a bit on their backs, but we are the same. We are exactly the same as well in that respect. So every club is like that. So I think that may play a bit of advantage in the weekend.
It would be the ultimate irony if Kilmarnock, led by Derek McInnes, do go 1-0 up at Pittodrie, and at the amount of times we slandered him for not going for the kill and using his infamous game management to try and hold on to a lead, if he does go on and manage to do that, that would be the ultimate irony. And I would not be surprised in any way, shape or form if that is what happens.
Yeah, I like how you also put game management in inverted commas for those not watching the video on YouTube as well. But yeah, it would be very typical, I think, just on the back of what Martin said there, that it is almost a 1-0 masterclass for scoring an early goal, sit in and defend a lead. And I think, it's a Calum, on that point that Martin makes, we spoke about it a little bit about maybe the pressure Jim Goodwin could come under this month if fixtures or results don't go according to plan. And, as Martin says, Aberdeen fans, Kilmarnock fans, this does have the potential to be a coupon buster if there is not 3 points, as many would predict for the home side. Does that then, if Kilmarnock do take the lead, just add that little bit of pressure and, question marks around what our squad is capable of.
It could indeed be spooky season for Jim Goodwin if
Nice.
first game of October does not go well. However, I hope that if we do go 1-0 down, or regardless, if it takes us a while, sort of 20 minutes, half an hour, it's still 0-0, it takes a while to break down Kilmarnock, that we do stick to the plan. We saw what happened up at Ross County. Okay, we ended up chucking away the lead, but we stuck to the plan. We kept our calm. We didn't start just hoying balls forward for absolutely no reason. We still tried to play football and make things happen. And thankfully, a moment of magic from Duke sort of bailed us out to a degree. So I hope we can sort of stick to that. And it is annoying with it being Dent McInnes because he'll know, as Martin mentioned, exactly how to play it at Pittodrie. So I just hope that the players are up for it. And I mean, ideally, we start off super fast and we take the lead early, but they need to stick to the game plan and, stick to what they've been training in all week. Learn from Hibs as well, most importantly, too. And hopefully we'll have enough to get us over the line. I've gone from wanting a fantastic performance to now just taking anything.
Yeah.
It's amazing what these podcasts do to you as you go through all these little bits.
Do you remember the time we did beat you though under Clark, and it was a dodgy red card for 5 minutes? That's the sort of luck I'm on about.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah,
and that's the thing is you could look stats in the face and that we've not scored away from home. The odds are Aberdeen are going to win, but all it takes is for a dodgy ref to give a red card. We know what refs are like. It might be a penalty. We score. Then that means we've got something to hold on to. And it means that Aberdeen will have to attack more, change the game, and we can exploit with the pace of maybe Jordan Jones. And it's just stuff like that could happen. So you never know how the game could pan out. Or, like you say, you could just really go for us and we could crumble like we have done in the past under certain games. So it's...
Yeah, fingers crossed. And when you say Jordan Jones hopefully starts, who do you see that being in place of? Because is that someone like Rory McKenzie instead? Because Rory McKenzie is a player who maybe doesn't set the header on fire, but he can be quite a niggly player and just pop up with a moment to, pass a through ball or take that pop shot from distance.
Yeah, no, I mean, Rory McKenzie for me needs to start because he's not the most gifted footballer yet, has scored some great goals, but what he will give you is 110%. He will run about. It's not pretty, but it's effective at times against certain teams. And if you've got ball players in the middle, you don't want to be giving them time on the ball. So for me, Rory McKenzie, Alan Power, they're the sort of players that will try and break up the play. So you need both of them playing. It's funny you talk about a player that's got a shot in them. So for me, I like to see McInroy playing his more natural position in the free in the middle because he does like to get a shot away. So no, for me, Jordan Jones, I mean, Danny Armstrong's come in, did all right, got the winner, had a very good game, but he still has moments which frustrate me. So, and unless Jordan Jones is a better player, so it would be for Danny Armstrong.
Yeah, and Calum said, hopefully Aberdeen learn from Hibs, and I'm assuming, Calum, you meant learn from our own performance at Easter Road. Yes, I can see you nodding in agreement. But I also took from that learn from what Hibs did to Kilmarnock at Easter Road as well. When you said, a positive start, a fast start, because Martin, I felt that that's what Hibs did to you, kind of got in behind and really put a lot of pressure on that defence early on, a lot of pace and a good high press. But, you mentioned the Rangers result at Ibrox where, it was a very sturdy performance and it was, the second goal was very late on. Do you think Mcinnes will kind of look to that performance at Ibrox and go for something similar in terms of sitting in and frustrating Aberdeen, or given the fact that Aberdeen have got our own issues defensively and we've seen how teams have exploited the McCrory and Stewart partnership, that he might try and look to do that and then go back to sitting on, as you said, give Kilmarnock something to hold on to?
Yeah, I mean, he's got different players available now to what he had to that game, so there will be a slight change in that. And I think, for me personally, I think we will look to soak up a lot of pressure, not have the possession, but I think we'll have more of a chance of counter-attacking with the pace in the side now. And then if with Doidge up top, maybe getting the knockdowns for the likes of Jordan Jones to run onto, or if Fraser Murray was playing. So I think it'll be maybe similar in some aspects, but not in an attacking sense. I do think that Mcinnes, he won't be looking at this wanting to go in like the Rangers game. He will want to look and attack and try and frustrate the crowd, because again, like I said before, he knows what the crowd are like. So he'll want to, get the crowds frustrated early doors. So I think he will try and play a more attacking game.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the two sides pan off against each other, because Calum, I think, I seen today that the Richard Donald stand sold out with the most number of Don's Day Out attending. So, certainly a crowd there that we could hopefully retain and, maybe encourage to come back with a positive performance. So again, something there that we can certainly look to use. And I think that would certainly, positive performance, 3 points especially, would encourage people to come back. Let's hope that we, as you say, have learned from Hibs, and we see something positive on the pitch, and ultimately coming away with 3 points would certainly help that matter as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we can dick about with kick-off times as much as we like. If we're not putting performance on the pitch, people still won't be interested. So hopefully we can start off October with a bang, and maybe encourage people to come back, and also set us up well for a very important month, which, I can't tell if I'm looking forward to seeing how it going or not, or terrified, because there's points like this last season where we thought this is a huge month, this could make or break it. And we all know what happened then.
Yeah, we do. But it's been good to kind of sit down this Monday evening and look forward to club football coming back. Martin, Killie Shrew View podcast, thank you very much for joining us to give us an excellent insight into all things Kilmarnock. Just give us a shout out to maybe Kilmarnock fans tuning into this episode, and maybe Aberdeen fans wanting a bit more of an in-depth thought into what you had on the Kyle Lafferty incident, as we've been calling it. Where can people tune into your own podcast?
So it's Sloping Killie, and also obviously Aberdeen fans should follow the Forever and Ever podcast as well, which is done by Paul and Calum. So it's a really good podcast to follow. So they should follow that. It's been great to be on. Hopefully I'll be smiling come Saturday. I am, like I say, I'm sticking with my prediction from our podcast for the simple fact that I just think we need that bit of luck. If it was another time of the season, maybe not, but I'm going for a 2-1 to Killie.
I think it's going to be, I think we're going to get that clean sheet. I don't know why I think that, given our centre-back pairing, but I'm going to go for a 2-0 win for the home side. Callum, what's your thoughts?
What a ridiculous thing to say, we're going to keep a clean sheet. I'm going to go out there 3-2. I think, we are sometimes a bit free scoring at home, albeit usually helped with a opponent's red card. But defensively, we all know what's possible, and I feel like Ash Taylor is bound to score. But whether it's in his own net or not, I don't know yet. So, we'll stay tuned. I'm really excited to see Ash Taylor, kind of.
Yeah, I suppose, it's interesting. You said, wonder what reception Mcinnes will get. It'll be interesting to see what reception Ash Taylor gets as well. A Marmite sort of player, I think, amongst the Aberdeen fans. I certainly appreciated what he did at his time at Aberdeen. I know others thought maybe we could do better, but we've seen what we've been doing at centre back so far this season. But if I do miss a 5-goal thriller for the American football, no pressure on you keeping notes on everything that's happened.
I didn't even think about that. I hope it's 0-0, just so it's nice and easy.
I'll take a 0-0.
yeah, Martin, bite your hand off for that.
I'll take that. Yeah.
Yeah, well, perfect. Martin, Calum, thanks very much for your contributions on this episode. Thank you to all of you who have tuned in, either via audio or video. If you have been watching on YouTube, remember to leave a like and a comment with your thoughts ahead of this weekend's game. And if you're listening as well, hit that subscribe button to make sure you don't miss out on future episodes. Thank you very much for tuning in to Red Tinted Glasses. Until next time.
Ciao.